Yeah. Oh wow, that was weird.
That was unfortunate.
Hello and welcome back. It's good to be back. It's been what, a few months, a few years, who knows? But we're back. That's what matters. It's another episode of the Ball Agenda Show. I'm here with my main man, Fayems. How you doing today, sir?
Doing very well, sir. Excited to talk about the beautiful game and just start going again. So super excited.
Yeah. This is going to be a really, really short and sweet episode. We just want to, let you guys know that we're back and also just, give our takes on a few things that have been going on. First of all, first thing we're going to talk about is the relegation battle going on in the English Premier League. Um, right now, just for context and for the viewers that don't know, Norwich City has been relegated already. Watford actually just got relegated today with the loss to Crystal Palace. So right now um, it's between Everton and Leeds, and they're both fighting for the next spot for who goes down to the championship. What do you think about that, Brian? And what you take? Who goes down?
So I mean my heart wants Burnley to stay up. So I want Burnley to stay up. But I actually thought Everton were dead and buried up until these last two games where miraculously they beat Man United and beat Chelsea. And both teams in poor form admittedly, but I didn't see that coming. So now it's really tasty and interesting because they have a game in hand. And Leeds that I thought were somewhat safe after they went on that run are right back into it. Their next game is against Chelsea, and they have a game this weekend that they really need to win. Otherwise, they lose this weekend, they lose to Chelsea, and they probably go. Which honestly would right because I don't think they handled Bielsa's situation well at all, and I think he could have salvaged this. And I've never really been a believer in Jesse Marsh. So for me, I really want Everton to go down because I just don't really like how people say managers are finished without looking at the situations. And people might say this is my Mourinho bias, but you've seen that Mourinho is taking a team to a European final that hasn't been there in over a decade. And Ancelotti is taking a team to a European final again. And these guys went for projects like Spurs, Napoli, Everton without the tools, and people said they're finished. Now they've moved on to different situations that are showing that they aren't finished. And I think it's similar to Benitez. Benitez has so much pedigree and people are just so quick to say he's finished and not look at the players and how they're performing. So they brought in Lampard, who was supposed to change it. Even with a new manager bounce, couldn't get anything out of these players. So I think Benitez was unfairly treated as well. And as a result of that, I honestly think years of mismanagement, buying players for crazy fees, Alex Iwobi for 40 million, paying players crazy wages, I think has finally caught up to them. And I really think that if they go down, it'll be really difficult. But I think they really deserve to go down for just years of mismanagement.
Yeah, but they go down, they come right back up, right?
They
You
won't
just
come
see.
right back up
You
because
don't
they'll
think?
lose people like Richarlison, they'll lose probably people like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and then they'll be left with probably Pickford too. They'll be left with a spine that will quickly become championship level. And I'm unsure. Maybe Lampard will stay because he has some championship experience. But if they don't come back quick, and their finances are not in a good place, so they won't be able to keep a lot of those players on their wage bill. They won't be able to sign any players. And if they don't come back immediately, it could get really ugly.
Yeah. But I feel like for me, I'm definitely tired of having Burnley in the Premier League. I mean, kudos to them. They finally got rid of Sean Dyche here and there, and that was shocking to see anyway. But I feel like they've survived so many times. They always live life on the edge. I feel like it's finally time for them to go down with their haram ball. What do you think? No,
They
it's
don't
not
have
time.
money. Like
It,
Cornet for 15 million, I think was their record signing or something.
yeah,
And they've actually been pretty shrewd in the last two transfer markets with Cornet, with Weghorst. Like I think
workhorse.
they're
Yeah,
actually finally building a team that potentially, if they stay up this season, can start to build on. Like what he achieved that season when he came, I think eighth or ninth. I think it was even seventh or something crazy, was magic. And it's not supposed to happen. It shouldn't happen with the wage bill that they have, with the types of players that they have. And the fact that Sean Dyche was able to do that for almost a decade just speaks to how good of a manager he is. But because when you look at that team on paper, they're where they should be. and now they're starting to build maybe with this new investment that they have. But I think they've just punched above their weight for a long time, and I don't think it's their fault. I just like Tough Mall is a small ground. Like there's just so many things that make it such a beautiful story. Is why I don't want it to end.
Beautiful is relative. But
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier about Bielsa and Leeds, and really quickly before we shift gears, um, it's actually funny because I always ask myself with Leeds, like, how did we get here? And you look and you talk about how how they were commended for the style of football they were playing, coming into the Premier League, retaining that style of football from the Premiership, high tempo, and somehow they just went through games where they weren't getting results. Kind of like it was giving like Brighton, how Brighton has always been over the years, and they weren't getting a lot of results. And then they felt like it was right to sack Bielsa and bring in Jesse March, who reminds me of, if you know the show Ted Lasso, basically. Very,
I knew
very
you were gonna say. I was
American.
just waiting for that.
Yeah, he is Ted Lasso, basically. Because even their last game, they lost. They lost 4-0. And he was applauding and cheering on the crowd after a 4-0 loss.
That was confusing.
But it's interesting.
I mean, but when Klopp does it, we.
Not
I
after
don't
loss.
think they lost though, but it was similarly embarrassing.
Not after a 4-0 loss. But you look and say, how much further is Leeds going to fall before they start to climb back up? What do you think?
I think we have to just credit Marcelo Bielsa. Like, just that's literally all I have to say about this, because Leeds have, I think they've played, I can't remember the exact number, but and I should have that down. They've played the highest number of, I think it's under 16s or something, and that's not by choice, and that's not something that Bielsa wanted to do. They've been ravaged by injuries all season. Arfinha has been in and out of fitness. Bamford has played a handful of games. The spine of their team, Phillips hasn't been available. They're chopping and changing all the time. In attack, they end up playing kids more often than not, and then having the bench filled with kids. Like, Bielsa's system worked well because that last season, because they had some continuity with the players who were very familiar with the system. Think about it. If you're trying to get people to buy into a certain style and train and do the murder ball things and just have that ingrained, you'd want those people to play. If you're always bringing in the kids who one, haven't been doing that for as long as the core of your team, it's always going to be that discontinuity, but also they'll be soft. Like a lot of things that were happening that were soft goals or just Leeds looking like they just fell apart is because they don't have that experience, that nous, and that's just as a result of the injuries that they were ravaged with. And I don't know what their financial situation is and why they couldn't strengthen, but it was really, really, really difficult for Bielsa, and I think he could have been given a little bit more time, because there are some changes with Marsh in terms of how solid and structured they look defensively, but I think one, there's a new manager bounce element to that, and there's also some of those players are coming back from injury. So I think it's those factors I think play and make that the situation.
Yeah, good point. Shifting gears a little bit, but still on the topic of managers, Erik ten Hag. It's been announced as the new Manchester United manager, come July 1st. Currently seeing out his season at Ajax, where I don't know if they've won it yet, but hopefully will win the Dutch Eredivisie League. So personally, I didn't want to talk about this because as a United fan, we've gone through a number of managers since Fergie left, and everyone brings with them a new kind of renewed hope. Ten Hag is the most promising so far because of his track record of success, but also because of his style of play. And I think also, given the season that Manchester United has had, there's going to be wholesale changes. We just lost 4-0 today to Brighton. What do you think Ten Hag's first kind of, course of action at Manchester United will be?
I think Ragnick has started it a little bit, and I think that's just clear out. It's necessary. I think a lot of these players aren't of the quality required of a Manchester United, and a lot has been papered over. I mean, everyone knows I'm not Bruno Fernandes's biggest fan, and I don't think you can build a team around a 37-year-old in this current climate and just the way the game has changed over time. I think also there have been bad transfers. I've also know I know prior to the transfer of Varane, I wasn't really a fan, and now I think everyone is seeing some of those things. I don't claim to always know everything, but like that transfer didn't pan out. Tellers hasn't really been
I think
incredible.
Varane might be premature to say it didn't pan out. I think we still have a couple of years with him to prove whether it pans out or not.
Tellers, I mean, I was just in the context of this season. Like this season has been really difficult. Correct. That transfer hasn't panned out the same way I would say Sancho hasn't panned out. His career isn't necessarily over, but this season, it didn't work. And those were huge sums. And City have, and this is why I'm also not the biggest fan of Pep Guardiola. He's made mistakes like this,
correct,
but he always has the money to solve it immediately the next time.
Because and really quick, the reason he has that luxury is because they win games.
No, because if you remember, he didn't do that well in his first season, and he made a lot of signings. I think he bought Mangala. I may be incorrect about that, but he bought Bravo. He bought Aki. He bought Mendy. He's bought a lot of players that don't play or play meaningful minutes. He bought Stones and didn't use Stones for like 2 seasons. He's done a lot, and then the next thing that they do is just, oh, that didn't work. Let's drop it back on the next person who could solve it.
Yeah, but that's because over time, at least for the most part of like 90% of Pep Guardiola's games, there's a clear style of play, clear system of play, and they're not playing badly. Maybe they just bottle games like they did against Real Madrid. But I think, and I know this because, and I'm saying this because I also watched their like All or Nothing, right?
Yeah.
The people at the top, they buy into Pep's vision. Whether or not that's been successful over the years, talking about Champions League, that's for them to determine. But you can tell that they very much buy into Pep's vision. They buy into him as a manager, they buy into their play style as a club. So when Pep says, this is the person that's going to help us take us to the next level and win the Champions League, the people at the top are like, I bet we'll spend that money. When Manchester United have not gotten the right since Fergie, is that there's no clear, okay, I'm going to buy, for instance, we're glossing over some people over the years, like Falcao that came to United, Di Maria for the fee that he did at the time, left after 1 or 2 seasons. There are people like that you look and say, what was the strategy around acquiring them and why did you acquire them? Was it just because they're a big name? And then it doesn't help when you don't win games either. Talking about Varane now.
But Falcao wasn't a big money signing.
Falcao wasn't a big money signing, but he was a big deal. If you think about it, why did he come to United barring the fact he was a big
because he was done.
He was done.
He was just coming to experience the league. Falcao, once he had that injury,
he went to Chelsea as well.
Yes,
he wasn't experiencing the league. He was supposed to become the Radamel Falcao. Remember from
impossible. Once he had that, Falcao hasn't been the same since that.
In hindsight,
that's
yes.
like me.
In hindsight, impossible, right?
Yeah.
But at the time he was acquired, is my point. You don't.
He wasn't a starter. I don't.
He was starting.
He was brought
yeah.
to.
He was brought to kind of revive his career, but it's also I'm talking about in terms of. You don't afford yourself those luxuries, and you can even look at Liverpool, talking about Konate, for instance, or even Thiago. Talking about Konate specifically. When they acquired Konate was not starting games.
When did they acquire Konate?
This season.
Yes.
But he wasn't
played a number of games.
No, but that's recently. He wasn't, and that's what I'm getting to that point, chill. He wasn't starting games. No one batted an eye. The same way when Sancho wasn't playing games, people were batting eyes. And the sole difference is not, I'm not going to sit here and talk about his United versus...
It's price tag.
It's not price tag necessarily.
How much did they buy Konate for?
It's about, for 50M.
Konate didn't cost 50.
Konate was 50 million. It's about no, but chill, let me land. Okay. It's about whether you're winning games or not. I think you buy yourself a bit more time, a bit more luxury if you can afford to not play those players and still get results.
Konate cost £36 million and Sancho cost at least twice that. So don't even try that.
you talk about pounds. Sancho cost what, 70-something million pounds?
Exactly. So more than twice that. So that's
both in the context of what we're talking about, big name signings. Correct?
No, Konate is not a big name signing. Konate is, if City dropped 35 or 36 million, you guys will say is a big money signing. Was Cancelo a big money signing?
Bro, in the context of football, yes, Cancelo was,
And especially with the way
Ake was a
prices
big money
are,
signing.
except because he cost 50 million.
Yeah, Stones.
So that's what I'm saying. With the way football has inflated, 36 million is a, if you get someone decent for 36 million, that's a bargain.
Yes.
Sancho was clearly not a bargain. That was a splash.
But I think my point.
So if your splash is not playing, we must talk. Same with Grealish. If your Grealish has not done much this season, if anything, so we're saying, why did they spend that money?
But are the same questions? I mean,
the reason why the questions aren't being the reason why the questions are not being asked to the same extent because City are doing well.
That's exactly my point. That's you've hit the nail on the head, right? Is you look at Grealish, you look at Sancho, similar in terms of price tag. For me, there's more upside with Sancho because he's younger. But that's aside, right? One of them has been in majority of the season being lambasted and whatever words he wants to use because United is not winning games, and that's not his fault. Like that's how the game works, right? So with the big money signings and everything like that, I just think there's that element of you must win your games, you must still do the things that matter, which is get the results. And if you don't get the results, your big money signings are going to like people are going to talk about that, right? But if you're a Liverpool where you bring a player and there's already a system in place that works, that player might look at Saul, not a big money signing, but
not even a signing.
You're right, but for the disaster he's been, no one's batted an eye.
People talked about it. But now he's just not playing anymore. But the actual big money signing is getting talked a lot about. Exactly.
Not necessarily, not as much. Because Chelsea, I mean, at the end of the day, Chelsea's doing well.
Flop. Everyone's calling him a flop.
Yeah, because it's fun to make fun of Lukaku because it's like Kaka, right? But at the end of the day, like no one's really batting an eye because if Chelsea's bagging goals still, everyone just says, okay, that's fine, right? It's okay because we can do without him. That's how City have got to where we came from and where we're going to get back to is. That's how City have got to the way for so long. And I don't blame their board for giving Pep the money he needs because at the end of the day, for most seasons, 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6 of these seasons, Pep has won a trophy. And a trophy is
money. But I don't blame them either. It's their business. They choose how to run it. But I think it just unbalances the playing field significantly. And it's why actually I'm not the biggest fan of Jurgen Klopp, but I respect what he's done in terms of net spend over time. They have splurged quite a bit, but when they have, it's worked. When they splurge on Van Dijk, on Alisson, it has panned out.
Good signings, yeah.
But Pep spending like 100 million on Grealish, who they don't need, and with no intention to play him.
And about to sign Haaland again.
Exactly.
And apparently Pogba. And you signed Alvarez.
It just makes me look at your achievements in a different light. Especially when you stacked a lot of Carabao Cups based on that. Like you're able to basically build 2 first 11s, and while everyone is rotating, your second first 11 can beat most teams' first 11. Yeah. It's just unfair, in my opinion. So
I can see that, and that maybe talks about we'll hint on why they have so many cups to their names in recent years, right?
Yeah.
Because you can always build that second team.
And now they say it's because of squad depth that they went out, that they have to play 37-year-old Fernandinho at right back. I'm like, dude, it's because you spent money stupidly. It's not because you have players.
Talks about squad depth. I will not listen to that. But no, okay, let's move on because this is supposed to be short and sweet.
Yeah,
we keep it short and sweet.
Yeah.
On the topic of Man City, I think it's a good time to talk about the title race that's shaping up to be one of the best we've seen in recent times, and that's both in the Premier League and the Serie A as well. Yep. So for our listeners, Man City, Liverpool taking it right to the very end, trying to vie for the English Premier League, but also the 2 Milan clubs in Italy as well, taking it right down to the wire.
Feels like 2000 and what?
Rolling back the years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I want to know who do you think is going to win, either of those leagues or both of those leagues rather, and why?
I think with just 2 games to go and just how things look, I think honestly it's kind of close to call, to be fair, because
but which league is this? Let's say both.
So it's close to call for Inter AC because they don't feel like machines. Like I feel like anyone can just drop points stupidly to someone.
Mm-hmm,
City and Liverpool feel like machines. Like this, that's why I really want Spurs to win this game because if
I
Spurs
think
or
that human
draw,
elements.
yeah, because if Spurs don't, Liverpool are going to win the rest of the games. Like there's like, and
Correct.
City most likely will win, but maybe they can drop a point. But they feel more like machines. Milan feel very human, like,
Yeah,
and maybe it's
yeah.
because City and Liverpool are just like probably the best teams right
In
now.
the world, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Milan feel human, Inter feel human.
Yeah.
So the point gap, especially the way they've stacked the games, that now Inter is ahead with a game, with Milan having a game in hand. I know it puts pressure on Milan, so Milan can crack, but I think Milan will be able to do it. I think they have good experience with people like Zlatan and people like Giroud who have won titles, leading the line, that I think can just help them get to the line. But it's just interesting that a journeyman like Pioli, who hasn't really done anything in his career, can win the league. I don't know what that says about the league, because the league has actually been good this season. It's felt very competitive. It's just surprising that someone like him with no pedigree can win the league. But I think I probably picked Milan there, and I think City now, with nothing else on their minds, it will be a huge embarrassment if they can't close it
If
out.
they cannot, yeah.
So I think for that reason they should.
I think, and I said this, on one of my chats as well. I think the fact that City has crashed out of the Champions League means that they must win.
Like if they don't win this season, is sackable.
Yeah,
honestly,
it's sackable, but
for the amount spent.
Yeah, I like the word sackable when we talk about Pep, because we act like that.
No, it's a trophyless season at Man City. That should never happen.
No, I'm saying I agree with you in terms of it's sackable. Yeah. Like the offense is punishable, but it's almost like he's not going to get sacked. So it is.
But we wouldn't be surprised if he did.
It's not. They're already talking about next season.
Because they're assuming they'll win. I'm telling you how crazy it would be if they don't win the title.
But I think that the fact they crashed out of Champions League and the manner in which they did, kind of, you would expect it to kind of
like that's probably the worst of all their. That's the worst of all their defeats in Champions League.
Yeah.
Because which makes this season a little different in terms of if they cannot win the Premier League from this position.
I expected. No, my point is I expected to light a bit of a fire in their bellies. They come out in the next game, they win 5-0, they win the game after 4. They have so much to prove now that they can't prove in the Champions League. A lot of their energy, you could tell, was channeled towards the Champions League. City played football I've never seen them play against Atletico Madrid. They locked up. They packed. They didn't necessarily pack.
They couldn't do it when it mattered most.
They played, like gritty football. They got down, they got dirty. That's something I've not seen from City in a long time, or ever really, under Pep especially. And so you could tell they felt like they had something to prove in Champions League. The manner in which they lost that game, if it didn't light a fire in their bellies to say, hey, there's nothing that can stop us from winning the Premier League, then maybe he should be sacked,
Yeah.
By the end of the day, they've started making plans for next season. You're talking about Haaland.
All those things don't matter.
All
those things don't matter. Continue signing a new contract in January, and they sold him in the summer for 100.
At the end of the day, you look and say who are they going to go out to get that is going to be better than Pep Guardiola. That's where you can talk about Poch or something, but that's I think kind of what they look at. And you should know from All or Nothing, they look at long-term vision. They think Pep is the man to take them to Chelsea or to the promised land.
But he's had 6 years.
Yeah, we're going to soon put Pep on.
This is actually
he's on Ford watch. We're soon going to move him over.
We're going to start looking at his watch. There might be some.
But yeah, I think you are spot on with the race in Serie A as well. I think it's going to come down to who really wants it more. It's really in the ball is in Milan's court, because they have the game in hand. Inter kind of bottled it with their keeper having a horrible mistake last week. But I think it's up to Milan, and like you said, they have the experience to get the job done. Shame for them, though. I think next season they lose a couple of really good players in KSA, and I think one more player can't remember. Yeah, so they need to do it now, to be fair. Yeah, they need to do it now, because and that's the thing about Serie A, I think it's always very competitive for a number of weeks. Yeah. There's always going to be Napoli in there. Lazio always thinks that they have a chance, but never really do. There's always going to be, the Inters, and I mean now Inter is doing well, but the Inters and the Milan and the AC Milans, but typically they're all kind of around the same level of farmers. That's how I look at it. Moving on though, it's Champions League.
You have to shout out my man.
Who's that?
Unai.
Oh,
that guy is a legend. I think his players just got tired, honestly, because what they did in that first half. They just did not need to concede. So I mean, also the keeper sold game. So that's
game, but one player changed
that first half.
Luis
They wanted to kill them.
They did. That was the first time that I've seen Liverpool, and the same thing that happened with City when they eventually bottled. They were booting the ball forward.
I was like, Una, you're a manager, bro. Bro.
Liverpool penned back.
These guys cannot put two passes together, bro.
Putting the ball away. That first half was Capu looking like he's
guy. That was so saucing, guy. And Gerrard, like that time could have been so different. Gerrard played that first leg, bro.
Gerard Moreno, though,
they had no outlets in that.
Kudos to him. He played through an injury, but you could tell.
Yeah, no, he was still injured, and they lost Danjuma too. Like, guy, everything that shouldn't have happened just happened. Like, Danjuma and Moreno would have given them something to think about. Yeah, because Diaz is not a good player. He just like right place, right time.
I think at the end of the day, for me, that's where they pay the big managers big bucks for. Everybody outside of at least for me, I could see. I was like, Jota is a problem right now. Like everybody could see that. Liverpool had no outlets, and barring the outlets bit, Jota just looked like he was like every time he got the ball, he looked a bit lackadaisical. He wasn't in tune with the tempo of the game.
I don't think that was Jota though.
To me, it looked very much like
everyone
Jota.
was. Thiago couldn't string one pass to anybody. Like, everyone had no time on it, and it's a lot harder for the forward because you're playing typically back to goal, and they play with two center backs. So if everyone else has no time on the ball, you have like half the time that they have. So whether it's Jota, whether it's
you don't have anyone carrying the ball up the field. That's what I'm trying to get at. In terms of even when Luis Diaz came on, obviously kind of different outlook because now Liverpool control the game. But you have Diaz much more direct player, taking on players, making your lines
play through the middle.
Back a bit. Sorry?
He didn't play through the middle.
He didn't.
Yeah, so like that's
what created space. It's not a knock on Jota, but at the end of the day, like
I think they got tired. Like I don't think that was the change that Liverpool just like I watched. I was like something is so different. Like Liverpool have so much time on the ball. I just think that the players gassed out because Liverpool could take their time on the ball, could string together. But Fabinho had like 4 seconds before he took that shot in the box. Yeah. Which the keeper also
he looked up at who was free.
Yeah.
Who was free. Looked back up at the keeper.
Played a horrible shot.
Put his head down and played the shot. So he had at least 4 seconds. Yeah.
That the keeper should have saved.
Yeah. That really
was just so like honestly, we'll talk about it now because it's over, but he was so poor throughout the entire that guy cannot catch a ball to save his life.
I didn't watch him enough to know. Like
everything is slapping, punching, even it's simple shots.
Yeah.
So it doesn't inspire confidence. And the reason that goal that they even scored in the first leg was because he was cheating, trying to anticipate a cross and he got a little deflection. Like he never inspired me with confidence. I think his kicking is fine, but like when they actually got under pressure, that's what killed them. But that first half, I just have to give my pressure for that because he really clawed it back and made it interesting.
Yeah. And I think kudos to Liverpool as well, and we'll also talk about Real is in those key moments. I think one thing Liverpool has proven is that they don't get swarmed or overwhelmed by that pressure. I think that's something that over the years Man City has not proven. Right? Is you can talk about their class, their quality, blah blah blah. When it comes down to it, can you put your head down and win games? Real Madrid. We can talk about how lucky they've been, but for a 36-year-old Modric, and obviously not Cruz because he didn't finish that game. That game. But for a team that
3 games in it,
for a team that people have written off, a long time ago, they're still getting the results. I think that's like testament to Ancelotti, testament to the professionalism of Modric, Marcelo, all of their old heads. Like
it also just makes you think. It also just makes you not really give too much credit to Zidane because it seems like it has nothing to do with
anyone. I'm not a Madrid fan, but anyone that told you that Zidane did walk, they're liars. Because that's how he quit. He said, "I cannot do better than this. I cannot do better than this. I'm just going to quit out of my head." He's not taking up any of that managerial position since then. You don't find that suspicious. You don't find that suspicious. He won 3 champs. Dragba.
Thanks for that.
If Hush Puppy could have taken a note from that. See.
I don't need more. I'm good.
I'm going to go retire in the bus. Go to Monaco.
Look at my CV now. Come on. And that's the problem with people like Ancelotti is lucky he got this chance again to redeem clean his whites. But people like Mourinho that will just take jobs to try and challenge themselves or whatever. Correct. It's like, bro, this job is not a job that's going to end well. Like this is, especially the money you're going to have, you're not going to do anything here.
And I think those are the people, though, you can look at the Ancelottis, the Benitez's, the Mourinho's. Those are the people that you can tell enjoy their work and truly, truly know the sport, right? Yeah. It's not a luck thing. They
Emery, because Emery did the PSG, the Arsenal, and it was like, I'll go Villarreal and I'll prove myself again.
Exactly. And they know the ways to success. Yeah. It typically comes down to, can my players execute? Right? Yeah.
And also Pellegrini. We have to give a shout out to him. Pellegrini is one of the most underrated managers of this. No, Mancini for sure. Like if we're talking like underrated like Mancini, but Pellegrini because literally Real Betis won a trophy this season.
Yeah.
Like that is incredible.
That's
Bellerin said he was living to win trophies and he went and won a trophy.
So did Bellerin.
Like, do you know how crazy that is? Yeah, and he's like, it didn't quite work out at West Ham. People doubted him, but it worked out at City. And Pellegrini had pedigree prior. And now he's won a trophy for Real Betis, and they're also really pushing hard for top 4. Like Pellegrini is really, 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 really having an amazing season. So we just have to shout him out.
Yeah. But back to the Champions League, I think this is one of the most exciting, not necessarily best, but most exciting ones I've had the pleasure of watching in a long time. And we're going to talk about something that we talked about a bit off air, which is the away goals rule. For me, I think it's very much allowed teams to come into every game knowing that they have to win. It's kind of removed the I would say, off-field strategy of saying, oh, yeah, we're going to go into this game, we're just going to grind it out. We might lose the game, but, we're going to go through on away goals. I think it's kind of made teams come out of their shell a lot quicker and play football and try and play winning football. And we've seen it. I think, obviously, it's a small sample size, right? But you see the games now, you're seeing 6-5, 6-4, 7-8. And for Fayem's, though, he feels like that's not the case. So what do you think about that?
I don't think it's been bad. I just don't think I've seen enough to be like, oh yeah, you guys were right about changing the rule. We should keep maybe there's a mindset shift, but I don't know on whose side. Like the away goals rule was meant to make away teams more attacking. And we're seeing away teams be more attacking. So
yeah. But it's almost like, I don't say like double jeopardy, but like, okay, your back's against the wall already, because like the point of being at home was that you can have the 12th man, right, the fan.
Yeah.
And if you can get goals with your fans, then that's good on you. Like, but it also builds a certain type of pressure when you're playing in front of your home fans. So it's kind of like there was always that assumption that when you're at home, you're better off. And so if someone scores you when they come to your home, then they deserve, it's almost like double the points. Yeah. But why don't every goal should count for the same, really? You should go into every game trying to win the game. I feel like that's the difference it's made. It's now teams going and say, regardless of who's on our side, we're going to try and use the 12th man in the fans to win the game, but we're going to go into every game trying to win it. We're not going to just sit back and be content losing this game, but going through on away goals, right? I think that's
I mean, I don't think it's that big a deal, to be honest, because you might say this is how Atleti think, but Atleti went to Etihad to get a 0-0 or 1-0 to take back home and try to do something. And that's what they would have done with the away goals. And Villarreal, same thing. They went to Anfield to get a respectable scoreline that they could take back to their home stadium. And I don't think it's changed their mindset. They still came, they still sat back. So that's where I don't feel like teams are saying, let's go out and try to win the game regardless. It's still the other team typically has an advantage, and you have to be respectful of that and be more measured in your approach, regardless of if the goal counts for a little bit more. And I think that's how teams approach it, from my view. So that's why I don't think it's been as huge a difference as people have said.
Yeah, and that's for me too. Is also small sample size, kind of like what we said, right? maybe this is just the nature of this Champions League specifically, like it's a crackhead one. And I think by next season we can tell if this has really changed their mindsets or if this was just an outlier of the season, right? But yeah, there's been a lot of debates on Twitter about if the away goes reverse. It's going to stand anyway, but I heard something about UEFA also cancelling two-legged ties in the semifinals.
They're thinking about that, and so I don't know, man.
Wenger is just doing that whatever.
One club should sign him, I beg.
That's more time on his hands.
Yeah, I think they want to do shot clock, 60 minutes with a stop clock and all these new play ball where I used to, bro. Football, That's why people are scoring 50, 60 goals now. Just changing every rule. Let's
just give us football, huh? Yeah. But to wrap up this really quick episode, we're going to talk about top 4 in Premier League, and we're going to call it predictions, though, but I'm not going to call it predictions. It's almost done, right? We're going to talk about top 4 in Premier League and kind of how it's gone and how we see it playing out in the next couple of weeks. For some context, currently the top 4 race is actually heated. It's more heated than it does to be. Chelsea are in the running, Arsenal in the running, Spurs in the running. United, they got out today. They've been out for a number of weeks, actually. But Chelsea currently sit on 67 points. Arsenal, with the game in hand over Chelsea, sit on 63 points, and Spurs currently playing, they sit on 62 points. Who's going to make it through? Why do you think?
I mean, I think it's going to be Chelsea, and I don't think Chelsea are really in danger, and Arsenal should have been out of it after they lost those 3 games on the bounce, but they ended up winning 3 games on the bounce against all the teams that they were supposed to lose to.
Flipped it.
So it makes it very dicey. Spurs kind of need a result. Well, they don't need a result. They just shouldn't lose today. If they lose today, it makes it really difficult. So I say if Spurs lose today, Arsenal gets it because they don't really need a result. That Spurs will probably lose, but if the draw is fine, I think Spurs can do it. But it's just been so bad. Like this is like, and everyone will. I know people have laughed at Nuno, have laughed at Mourinho, but this is the worst top 4 race ever. And getting top 4 now shouldn't be like something that anyone hangs their hat on as an achievement.
Because this top 4 race is not because the teams are so good at the top.
No, it's because everyone
everyone has been so bad that now it's almost like
they've lost 11 games.
Who doesn't want
it? They've lost 11 games apiece. That's incredible and ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's West Ham been distracted throughout the season, so they fizzled out. Wolves just all of a sudden started losing every game. Leicester 10th or they're 11th or something, or maybe even 12th now. Who else is typically in that? I think it was those teams, and then Arsenal and Spurs just losing to anyone. United, sorry. And then Manchester United having their worst ever season in the Premier League. Go back to last season. It was more competitive. We're
going to put the Premier League on Farmers Fraud Watch soon.
Bro.
Because City have known that they will be top 2 since December.
Yeah.
Actually, they thought they kind of bottled in a sense because Liverpool was so good.
Yeah.
But, in the weeks leading up to now. But City have known that there's no competition since December.
Yeah.
The gap from the first to the 5th should never be this wide in the English Premier League.
Yeah,
and the top 5 teams
taking one step further, I will say 6th.
To 6th. It should not be this wide. They've just been so poor, and people talk about that's the excitement of the Premier League. No, because the teams that should be winning. Like Manchester City. They win most of their games, right? Manchester United has spent almost as much. They should be winning most of their games, and they go in and they lose. They lose to teams that they shouldn't be losing. Losing 4-0 to Brighton. So I think it's just they need to go all those top 5, top 16. They need to go and have a conversation about how they want, which way are they winning?
That's Super League.
Because they're talking about Super League. Really, no, should be that Super League too, and Brighton.
Yeah.
but no, I think you're spot on in that if Spurs lose today, I think their chances are slim, and especially looking at the run of games that both teams have, I think.
Yeah, it's easy.
I think it kind of evens out, but it favors Arsenal in a sense, especially. The North London derby is going to be massive.
And that's why they rescheduled it to this.
Absolutely massive.
For TV money. That match should have been played in February or something.
Correct. and so I see
And
Chelsea
Arsenal cheated to get it moved.
kind of like what you
They have
said.
COVID.
I think Chelsea, regardless, they're good. This was a rougher time.
They need
than
a
it should have
big,
been.
big reset over the summer, but they'll be
Correct.
fine.
And they've just gotten acquired as well. Big news.
Yeah,
coming.
huge. Maybe that takes the stress off of
Pressure.
the rest of the
Yeah.
things around
Yeah.
the club. Yeah.
But this would be a big summer for them as well. They're losing a bit of their core in Rudiger going, Marcos Alonso looking like he's going as well to Barcelona.
Alonso, they never wanted to play.
They
And that's
never-
actually why I think they went out of form. When they were in their best form, they lost their two wing backs.
But Chilwell is yet to see how he recovers from a long-term injury, right? So you can't bank on somebody coming back and being the same as he's
Absolutely.
been. So they're losing a lot of their core. Then they also have to figure out how to fit Lukaku, who we mentioned earlier, is sort of a flop this season. He's coming for 100 million. We expect more from the top line. And I think he can get more. They just have to change their style of play to suit him a bit more. But I think Chelsea is good. I think for me, if you ask me, I think Arsenal makes it in. Sadly.
I won't be
It's sad.
surprised. But yeah. I mean, it's probably not sad because you'll get to watch them be slapped up next season.
That's true. That's true. And while everybody is distracted, Ten Hag, listen, while everybody is distracted,
building
we're building to win the league next year, actually. So Ten Hag, pay attention.
It will be so bad.
I know you're hiring. If you need me back home staff, Ten Hag, call me.
Black men in the Premier League, you know that is a tough ask.
That's a tough ask.
Thank God for Patrick.
I was just about
putting on for us.
Alhamdulillah, Patrick, thank you so much. because
imagine if he didn't do well.
Patrick had flopped now. Everybody will say this is why we don't let the black men.
I told you.
Kudos to Patrick and finishing. If they finish 10 or top 10, kudos to the job he's doing. But
this has been because this team isn't even near where they're going. They're building.
Yeah, it's been fun to be back, guys, and we promise a bit more regular content.
Yes.
And Payams, any closing words before we give them
I just want to say this, agendas at door. When you analyze beautiful game, share your expert opinions. Oh, I'm so happy I get to say this again. Or do a topical deep dive. Make sure you ask yourself.
Do I? Really? No, ball. Thank you very much.
Good night.